Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts about the 40k universe. I am your host Gershwan and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we're going to be talking about the Grey Knights. So sit back and relax as we listen to 40 facts about the Grey Knights. The Grey Knights are a secret, mysterious, loyalist chapter of Space Marines specially tasked with combating the dangerous demonic entities of the Warp and all those who wield the corrupt powers of the Chaos Gods. The Grey Knights act as a military arm or chamber militant of the Ordo Malice, the demon hunters who form the oldest branch of the virtually omnipotent Inquisition. The Grey Knights' fortress monastery is based on Titan, the largest of the moons of the gas giant Saturn in the Sol system, that is kept as a private preserve of the Inquisition. The existence of the chamber is virtually unknown outside of the Inquisition and the high eccles of the Imperial Adepta, and it is well-guarded secret enforced by mind wipes and even assassination of Imperial citizens if necessary. Unlike other Astartes, every Grey Knight is a potent psyker, yet in the 10,000 standard years of the Imperial history, no Grey Knight has ever been corrupted by the ruinous powers of chaos. They have the honor of being implanted with gene seed engineered directly from the genome of the Emperor himself. The creation of the Grey Knights was a culmination of a plan conceived in the dying days of the Horus Heresy, hidden from even the Emperor's army to ensure the enemies could not prepare. Some of the stories and fables taught by the Adeptus Ministorum hold small hints of the existence of the Grey Knights, but they are portrayed as silver-armed angels, ghostly manifestations of the God Emperor, or shimmering reflections of the saints themselves. Those that do know of the Grey Knights only know portions of the truth. Those soldiers that have fought alongside the Grey Knights and retained both their lives and their minds recall them only as unknown Space Marines. Their unique weapons and psychic powers attribute to forgotten technologies and tactical doctrines. Those Space Marines that see the Grey Knights in battle are wise enough not to dwell long in thought about these mysterious warriors. Entire battalions have been sacrificed in order to maintain the secrecy of the Grey Knights. Legend has it that the Grey Knights were founded on the order of the Emperor himself. The Emperor knew that the time was coming when he would have to face his treacherous son Horus, and that he might well not survive. However, he foresaw that even if Horus and his armies were defeated, the power of chaos would retain a constant threat to humanity. His greatest warriors, the Space Marines, had proven fallible to the temptations of the Dark Gods, and so the Emperor set out to create a new soldier. This breed of Space Marine would be stronger of will than his brothers, and unwavering in his loyalty towards mankind, able to stand naked before the powers of the Warp and survive. In this dark time, the Emperor turned to Malcador the Siglet. Malcador was a powerful psyker, lore keeper of the fledgling Imperium, and had stood at the Emperor's side since the Unification Wars. He was charged by the Emperor immediately after the news had reached Terra of the War Master Horus's betrayal to gather a group of dedicated Imperial servants whose loyalty, courage, and strength of mind was unquestionable. As the Emperor prepared for the final battle with Horus, Malcador crossed the divided Imperium, searching corpse-shocked battlefields and worlds drowning in blood for those that the Emperor sought. Malcador returned to the Imperial Palace with 12 men. The 12 men consisted of 4 noble lords and governors of the highest order, complemented by 8 Space Marines. The 8 selected Space Marines all possess paranormal skills as psychers that had kept dormant as required by the edicts of the Council of Nicaea. The Council had ruled during the Great Crusade that the use of psychic powers was forbidden to Space Marines because of the dangers innate to manipulating the Immaterium. These warriors willingly cast aside their former loyalties in their given Space Marine legions and Primarchs, either because of the corruption of these legions by chaos or because they realized that the loyalty to the Emperor required them to sacrifice all ties to their former battle brothers. After meeting the candidates, the Emperor is believed to have responded, "Malcador, you have judged well. These 8 Space Marines do indeed have a vital role to play in the future of the Imperium. Though veiled in secrecy, they will be." Content that his plans would proceed, the Emperor and Malcador, along with the 12, left for Titan. The Grey Knights were created alongside what became the Inquisition, and their goal intertwined. They would be the staunch allies of their new organization, fashioned in the image of the Space Marine chapters. Their battle brothers, augmented by the Emperor's advanced science and genetic experimentation, blessed with both superhuman psychology and the most advanced Imperial weaponry. The Grey Knights would be the elite of the Adeptus Astartes. In Malcador's absence, the Emperor had prepared a concealed fortress monastery on the moon of Titan. Hidden under layers of rock, shrouded by powerful technologies, the construction had eluded discovery by the traitors. Their armies focused on Terra, where the fate of the Imperium was unfolding. After departing the Emperor's palace, Malcador's charge parted ways. The 4 human lords created the framework of the Inquisition, tasked with rooting out heresy from within the Imperium. Malcador took the 8 Space Marines to the fortress where he sat about laying the foundation of a new order of Space Marines. Everything had been prepared for the coming of Malcador and the Battle Brothers. An army of servitors maintained the fortress, while chiral vaults hidden at its core contained vast stocks of gene seed. Hundreds of thousands of recruits had been gathered from the worlds of the Imperium. These would become the raw materials that Malcador would fashion into the Grey Knights Space Marine chapter. Malcador's servants had chosen each of these recruits carefully. The recruits' minds deeply probed to see if they bore even the slightest hint of chaotic corruption. The recruits were also chosen for their latent psychic gifts, so that once human flesh was implanted with Space Marine gene seed organs, they would grow into potent psychers with a unique control of their abilities. To find so many suitable specimens, Malcador's servants had searched the millions of planets of the Imperium, taking aspirants from the seeded worlds of the Loyalist legions, as well as from the ranks of the Imperial army, some even taken from the primitive worlds newly restored to the Imperium. Their hardy people, ignorant of the sky war that had broken them to Titan, but willing to do what the gods demanded. For the first days, Malcador guided the 8 in the formation of the Grey Knights, overseeing the awakening of the Great Citadel and its new chapter. However, events were coming to a close on Terra, and as the traitorous army gathered for the final blow against the Imperial Palace, Malcador was summoned back to the Emperor's side. Janus became the first Supreme Grand Master of the Grey Knights. Malcador's final act on Titan was to weave a complex psychic ward about the moon to shield it from the mayhem raging across the galaxy. Whereas before, Malcador's artifice had merely hidden the fortress from the detection, it now concealed the entire planet. Wrapping Titan in a bubble of reality, Malcador sent it into the warp, where it would ride out the final battles of the Imperium. His rite complete, the Siglet returned to Terra to face his final fate in the service of the Emperor. For many standard years, Titan remained absent from the galaxy. While the Emperor was interned in the Golden Throne, the traitors fled into the Eye of Terror. The Grey Knights chapter grew within the warp. Many standard years after the end of the Horus Heresy, as the Loyalist Space Marine legions were dividing themselves into chapters in accordance with the newly created Codex Astartes, Titan returned, just as Malcador had planned. However, time is subject within the warp, and where only standard years had passed in real space, whole decades had slipped away in the fortress monastery of the Grey Knights. 8 Space Marines and hundreds of thousands of raw recruits had entered the warp. A full 1,000 Grey Knights emerged. In Malcador's stead, Janus had created the formidable weapon dreamed of by the Emperor, and it now stood ready to begin its righteous task. By this time, the human lords gathered by Malcador were masters of the Inquisition and had long been awaiting the return of Titan. With great care and utmost secrecy, the Inquisition lords added the Grey Knights to the records of the Adeptus Terra as the 666th chapter of the Space Marines, lost in the anarchy of the Second Founding. The only organization to know the Grey Knights' true purpose was the Inquisition. What transpired between these great lords is recorded in the annals of the chapter. The sacred words of Janus and the Inquisition lords marked out in an ancient inked telling of his first secret pact between the Inquisition and the Grey Knights. Even the librarians of other chapters cannot match the psychic mastery of the Grey Knights, and must always be vigilant against the insidious threat of the demonic possessions or madness brought about by the impact of the warp. Grey Knights appear only when there is a grave threat to the Imperium from the warp, often in places where the dark gods have unleashed their demons upon reality. It falls to the Grey Knights to contain the powers of the warp, sealing breaches between the material universe and the immaterium, or banishing powerful demons that have been taken by psychic form. While other chapters and Imperial forces have some knowledge of demons and how to fight them, only the Grey Knights are best equipped to battle and defeat mankind's most terrible enemy. The only Space Marine chapter that knows of the Grey Knight's existence and still lives is the Space Wolf chapter, whose full complement of the Astartes was granted knowledge of the Grey Knight's existence following the purges of the Imperial personnel that resulted from the First War of Armageddon. Inquisitorial savants have written numerous documents on the subject of the chapter's inexplicable, continuing purity in the face of constant involvement with chaotics, even when many inquisitors have fallen to the anarchy of corruption. One possibility to the Grey Knights' proven incorruptible support of the Emperor is due to the unusual nature of their gene seed. They each are embedded with the absolute purity of the Emperor himself. However, several Primarchs were carriers of the Emperor's gene seed and they fell to corruption. Another view is that each Grey Knight must constantly reaffirm and retain the purity given to them by the Emperor's gene seed through righteous thoughts and righteous deeds. These realities will perhaps never be known, yet for those with the faith in the Emperor, the truth is simple. The Emperor protects. And those were 40 facts about the Grey Knights. Now, there's a ton of lore for the Grey Knights, so we're going to go into each individual Grey Knight Brotherhood in part 2 to this. So be sure to click on the link to go to part 2. Subscribe to the channel if the link isn't working right now, because that means that we're going to put it out later on. So just subscribe, stay put, and don't forget to check out our Patreon channel, because we're going to start uploading Warhammer 40k Tactica, so please check that out. Thank you so much for listening to me. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.